The views and opinions expressed on this podcast is solely of the creator and may not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the listener. Listener discretion is advised. ChatGPT and AI technology were not used or harmed in the creation of this podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to Under the Moon Paranormal, Ohio Legends. I'm your host, Melanie. I grew up in rural Ohio. All my life I have studied these legends, and I'm here to bring you the haunted history behind the legends that you may have heard in Ohio. So if you've listened to past episodes, I've done Helltown, and I've debunked a lot of things, as well as Crybaby Bridge, talked about castles and cryptids, Grassman and Mothman. So I've never really done a haunted building per se. And today, in this episode, we're going to honor a place that is not going to be around too much longer. But it's not exactly in Ohio. So, after we talk about the full moon, join us for a special episode to a tribute of Bobby Mackey's music world. Alright, so we're throwing another log on the fire. So June 21st, 2024, the night of the summer solstice, we will have a full moon. Alright. The full moon occurs in the sun in the early Cancer forms in opposition to the moon in early Capricorn at 9:07 p.m. on June 21st, 2024. The full moon is a time of culmination and the promise of fulfillment, of which that's stated at the new moon. It is an emotional time, a time of romance, fertilization, and relationships. To understand this full moon, we need to recognize that the Cancer-Capricorn polarity concerns the balance between the private life, domestic life, and the need for a home base, a nurturance represented by Cancer versus the public life, career, reputation, accountability, represented by Capricorn. Attachments and love are ruled by Cancer, while achievements and rewards, punishments are ruled by Capricorn. In some ways, the polarity deals with the balance between unconditional and conditional love. Cancer encourages us to value our home base and our roots, while Capricorn persuades us to consider our sense of duty and responsibility along the public or professional lines. While Cancer may be the content to be dependent, Capricorn urges us to be grown up and responsible. Cancer represents the origin and Capricorn represents the goal. Neglecting either end of its axis will surely backfire on us. Ideally, a balance should be found between the two energies, and this is what the full moon invites us to do. This full moon is about balancing our commitment to our career and families. Something has been building inside of us, and now is the time when the energy of the cosmos fairly demands that we let it out. Over the next 2 weeks, we will discover that this means for us, for now, we can't sit on our feelings, and we need to express them. The full moon illuminates this conflict between roots and direction. With the full moon and bright in the sky, symbolic illumination occurs in our own lives. However, these new feelings and revelations are emotional ones, as there is a sense of emotion bursting forth into our consciousness. It's time to express ourselves, to let things out of our systems. Of course, we might want to exercise some care while doing so, knowing that what is coming out of us is fresh, unrefined, and not particularly irrational as yet. This lumination forms a square to Neptune, and we should watch for deception or self-deception. We might also consider that we can be reacting in delusionment. So stay safe out there during this full moon, my friends. So this episode, we're not going to have a listener-submitted story because we are talking all about Bobby Mackey's Music World in Wilder, Kentucky. Just a little ways away from Newport, Kentucky, which is right over the Ohio River by Cincinnati. So, before we talk about Bobby Mackey's Music World, let's mention Bobby Mackey himself. Robert Randall, or Bobby Mackey, born March 25th, 1948, is a traditional country music singer whose career has spanned over 40 years. His musical style can be described by his loyalty to Hank Williams, Merle Haggard, George Jones, Buck Owens, Conway Twitty, and Johnny Paycheck, and is the foundation for his musical success. Tip to Johnny Paycheck, who's from my hometown in Greenfield. Mackey opened Bobby Mackey's Music World in 1978 in Wilder, Kentucky, along the Licking River, next to the same railroad track that he worked in his youth. Bobby Mackey has been featured on network television shows such as Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Most Terrifying Places in America, My Ghost Story, A Haunting, and Unsolved Mysteries. So, you might have heard about Bobby Mackey's from any of those shows, okay? So, now we're going to talk about the Music Club. It's a nightclub in a honky-tonk type style located in Wilder, Kentucky. United States owned by country singer Bobby Mackey, urban legends claim that the nightclub is the site of hauntings, murders, suicides. However, no credible evidence exists for some of these claims. The current location is closed and will be temporarily located to Florence, Kentucky, while the site is demolished and a new facility is going to be built. The infamous Portal to Hell and the concrete wall, dubbed the Wall of Faces, that features water stains resembling human faces, will be preserved for temporary location and will be a part of the new building at the current site. Let me repeat that again. They are not demolishing the Wall of Faces or the Portal to Hell. But Melanie, what's the Wall of Faces? What's the Portal to Hell? Well, okay, let's not jump too far ahead because as every month when I bring you these topics, we must start at the beginning, people. Gotta start at the beginning. Okay? So, let's keep it creepy, right? So, a honky-tonk of horrors. In the small blue-collar town of Wilder, Kentucky, just south of Newport and across the mighty Ohio River from Cincinnati, sits one of the most fascinating establishments in the United States, called Bobby Mackey's Music World. Nestled along the east bank of the north-flowing Licking River, okay? The river that is right next to Bobby Mackey's, right next to that railroad track, is north-flowing. I think that has quite a bit to do with the hauntings at Bobby Mackey's, such as, crossroads, witchcraft. There's talk about Satanism before this place was even built. Okay? The iconic destination at 44 Licking Pike has something for everyone. Classic country music, a cold beer, a hard liquor, a mechanical bull, cowboys and cowgirls, ghosts and demons, perhaps even a portal to hell. Like I said, there's something for everyone down at Bobby Mackey's music world. What makes Bobby Mackey so intriguing is the juxtaposition of light and dark, day and night, and good and evil. It is a place filled with laughter and gaiety, happiness and music, the kind of place people go to have a good time. But Bobby Mackey's is haunted, and not just garden variety haunted, people. Along with a number of more or less benign spirits, darker things linger in the shadows, revealing themselves occasionally in shocking, even dangerous ways. The building's history is one of blood, murder, suicide, gangsters, gambling, showgirls, rumored Satanism, and a colorful characters of all kinds, each with a fascinating story to tell. The ground Bobby Mackey sits on was contested by Native Americans for centuries before we came here, just like they all do. Access to the river and the fertile land it nourished was a privilege fought hard between the Cherokee and the Shawnee tribes. White settlers arrived in the 1700s, and the area came to be called as Leachit Station, after Major David Leachit, who was given the land for his service in the American Revolutionary War. The wilder name dates to a railroad station built by Louisville, Cincinnati, and Lexington Railway in the mid-1800s, and named after a company executive. The railroad facilitated the spread of farming and manufacturing, and the region prospered and grew. Okay, so in the early 1800s, probably like 1850, the first building that was built on the Bobby Mackey land was supposedly a slaughterhouse where they killed animals, but there is absolutely no record of it. So it's also Kentucky. Keep in mind, those people didn't keep record very well back then. I can say from experience, I have seen my great-grandparents' handwriting from census records. They did not know how to keep record or even spell things well. So where the Satanists come from, I have no idea. That still baffles my mind, why there were Satanists out here in the 1800s. Alright, let's continue. A slaughterhouse was supposedly built on the site in the 1850s, where uncountable thousands of animals were processed, untold gallons of blood drained along with the life force from their bodies, before the EPA and the government waste disposal regulations. All this material was simply funneled through a sluice dug from the building and down to the river, which ran a very creepy red each time there was a dump from the slaughterhouse. So the slaughterhouse shut down in the mid-1900s, but the land and the water seemed to have developed an unquenchable thirst for blood. In 1896, a lovely young woman named Pearl Bryan, who was 22 and pregnant, was brutally murdered and decapitated near the site. Legend has it that a pair of there's two guys that are convicted for her murder. Brian's boyfriend, Scott Jackson, and his accomplice, Alonzo Walling, threw her head into the sluice as a sacrifice to Satan, an opening thus now named the portal to hell. It now sits uneasily in the basement of Bobby Mackey's, while people are riding that mechanical bull, getting drunk, and listening to some really good country music. There is a portal to hell underneath their feet. So, but hey, stranger things have happened, okay? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Pearl Bryan. Okay. So this is going to be the, let's see, 135th year since Pearl was murdered. Don't quote me on that. The young woman whose head was allegedly thrown down the drainage well in the basement of what would become Bobby Mackey's Music World in Wilder, Kentucky. It is a well-known story with paranormal enthusiasts like myself and helping make the basement of the establishment a spot that many ghost hunters desire to investigate. Not me. I would never go there, okay? I've seen enough evidence to know that you need to stay away from that place. But with only minimal research, the relationship between Pearl and Bobby Mackey's breaks down just a little bit like this, okay? Pearl and her big mistake. Pearl Bryan, lovely woman from Greencastle, Indiana. She is described as having a bright blue eyes, auburn hair, highlighted with blonde, but a flawless, unsoiled, silky complexion. Pearl was the youngest daughter of a large, wealthy farming family, because what else is there to do out in Indiana? She was a high school graduate, something that was an accomplishment for young women at this time. Pearl also served as a Sunday school teacher, did volunteer work at the Methodist church where her and her family were members, and assisted in the raising of the children left orphaned or by their deceased sisters. Openly, Pearl appeared to be the perfect Victorian lady. But Pearl had another side. She was unwed and she was pregnant, which was truly scandalous back in the 1890s, okay? Through her cousin, she had met a dental student by the name of Scott Jackson. Jackson had moved to the area after encountering some trouble with the law further up north, in Michigan. While he had befriended Pearl in 1893, it was not until 1895 that their relationship became intimate. Scott left Indiana for Cincinnati to attend dental school, and Pearl discovered her delicate position, we should say. Many attempts were made to abort the baby, with various concoctions Scott and Pearl's cousin discussed through their telegraphs. But these were not successful. Pearl was unaware of these attempts and wanted to marry Scott. She lied to her parents, telling them she was going to Indianapolis to stay with a school friend and headed off to Cincinnati. Poor Pearl trusted that she was going to get married, and being made its claim that Pearl's had an honest woman, but she made a terrible mistake. She had no idea what type of man Scott really was. Having Pearl there with them, Scott, along with his dental school peer and roommate, Alonzo Walling, remember that name, Alonzo Walling, sets out with more attempts at conducting an abortion. One of these is by injecting her with cocaine, which is legal and available at the drugstore at the time. The men also attempt abortions with dental tools before deciding to drug her, take her into Kentucky, and then kill her. They decapitated her while she was still alive. The coroner stated it appeared she was definitely alive when they started working on her with their dental tools. Scott and Alonzo placed Pearl's head in a valise, threw her dress over her upper torso, and fled the scene, leaving Pearl's body laying in a field close to the abandoned slaughterhouse. Pearl's head was never found. The two men were brought to justice, though. With her missing head, Pearl was identified by a manufacturer's tag in the shoe being from a cobbler in her hometown. Her relationship with Scott was quickly brought up, after the autopsy showed that she was pregnant. It was shown that he had no reason. Scott named Alonzo as his accomplice in the deed. The two were tried and being found guilty, where they were hung within hours. In Pearl's time, there was an abandoned slaughterhouse located on the spot where Bobby Mackey's Music World now stands. When the slaughterhouse was in operation, they had 3 drainage wells located in the basement of the building to take away the blood and water used in meat processing. After operation there ceased, the building was left as it was, and the wells were left open. The abandoned building soon developed a reputation for being the home of a cultist, and it was said that the deserted basement was used for satanic rituals, and the remains of animals sacrificed here were tossed down the wells. Many believe that these activities progressed, and that one of the wells actually became a portal to hell. When a heinous act as Pearl's murder was committed in this typical peaceful area, it was believed the occultists were to blame. Upon arrest, Scott and Alonzo were automatically believed to be part of the occult, and that their only need for possessing a human head was to use it to worship the devil. A popular theory was that the two had used the head in a ritual and then tossed it down the well, and perhaps even to hell itself. Official researchers in the area which the head would have been washed from the well, but it was never found. The media at the time was enjoying the paranoia that the crime was committing to appease Satan, and the report items such as Alonzo cast the evil eye onto the crowd at the hanging, and the men stated that they would be back to haunt the area after their demise. Reporters also state that when the head would never be found because if the truth was told, then Satan would punish the men. And that, my dear listeners, is the story of Pearl Bryan. That's a really sad story. But you know what? That's not the saddest thing that's happened at Bobby Mackey's. The derelict slaughterhouse was torn down and a roadhouse was built on the spot, which became a speakeasy during the Prohibition in 1919 to 1933. And in the later 30s, Buck Brady, the infamous George Remus bootlegging operation. So, this Buck guy was running a bootleg operation. Okay? So, let me describe what this place looked like on the inside. It was a sleek red and white showpiece adorned with marble floors and crystal chandeliers, and it was called the Primrose. A club profoundly featured a 5-star restaurant and 5-floor shows at night. The Primrose was a place of celebration and life with music and dancing and food and drink. The Primrose was so successful it drew business away from nearby Beverly Hills Country Club, owned by Nearport Crime Group, to Cleveland Syndicate, who sent in an enforcer Red Masterson to persuade Brady to sell it. Brady decided to be proactive and ambushed Masterson in a parking lot, shooting but not killing him. Masterson recovered. Brady was tried for attempted murder, convicted of a much lesser crime when Masterson wouldn't testify against him. In the realization, the writing was on the wall. The Cleveland Syndicate took control in 1947 and then opened the Latin Quarter Supper Club as Brady retired to Florida. That's an actual fact, okay? After they tore down the slaughterhouse, they built the Primrose. And it was a speakeasy and illegal gambling for like 11 years. And then it became the Latin Quarter because this guy Buck had he had mob ties, and that's why the shooting even happened, I guess, in the parking lot. The Latin Quarter was even more successful than the Primrose, an entertainment mecca that rivaled the finest establishments in the country. And an illegal casino business ran profitably along with the fine dining and dancing, though. Alright, it was during this time that another legendary tragedy befell the building. The beautiful and talented Johanna, a popular club dancer, fell in love with a crooner named Robert Randall. Now, if you remember back about 5 minutes ago, we was talking about Bobby Mackey. Bobby Mackey himself was named Robert Randall. But that's not the weird part, okay? The weird part is when Bobby Mackey was born, that wasn't his real name. For some reason, his mom changed his name to Robert Randall shortly after he was born. Now, do you think that's a coincidence? Because I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that is something that Bobby Mackey has always been tied to this land. Okay? Johanna fell in love with Robert Randall. Alright? Fell in love with Robert Randall. And Robert Randall, well, he dies. Yeah. But the weird thing is, there's no evidence of Johanna being a real person. Who knows? Who knows? But here's the story anyway, okay? The romance blossomed too much to the dismay of Johanna's gangster father, who forbade the couple from seeing each other. When they refused to give up their relationship, Johanna's father had Robert Randall killed. More blood offerings to the darkness of the club. The enraged and broken-hearted Johanna tried to poison her father as revenge for her lover's death, and then poisoned herself in the dressing room, in the basement, by that well. Okay? She also left a poem on the wall about being broken-hearted and waiting for her lover to return. Like she wasn't going to leave the club until he returned. She also left her diary by the well. This tragedy, though, if it actually happened, didn't deter the success of this club. The mob's reign lasted until 1961, when authorities finally clamped down on the organized crime in the area, destroying gambling equipment and shutting down the club for good. Okay? So after the Latin Quarter closed, a series of bars like Hard Rock cafes, all magnets of sin and violence before it masticized into a biker bar, the Hard Rock Cafe, okay? Most definitely not affiliated with the international chain, but in the early 70s, but a series of shootings in general disrupts fights, bar fights, like it was bad. It was so bad that there was 14 people that were either injured or shot or killed out in this parking lot at the Hard Rock Cafe in the 70s, where Bobby Mackey stands today. So there's more blood and violence right there. Okay, so The Hard Rock Cafe gets shut down because of all the violence. So, Bobby Mackey bought the place in the spring of 1978 with the intent of opening up a live music venue, a place for country music entertainment, and a place where he could perform whenever he wanted. He'd been on the road for 20 years doing his thing. He was ready to settle down. His wife was pregnant, and he wanted to have a country music club where he can play whatever he wanted, but with an intimate atmosphere. Up close and personal with the fans. It was a place he could literally call his own. But even before the doors opened to the public, paranormal activity began. The first day there, they met Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson used to work for the Hard Rock Cafe. He was kind of still there at the place. Kind of never left. Handyman is what they called him. Club manager. So then you had Bobby's wife, his first wife, Janet. She was about 6 months pregnant. Well, his wife knew immediately that something wasn't right about the building. She was attacked by an unseen force inside the club multiple times. She was also pushed down the stairs, which caused her to have her baby prematurely. Baby lived. Baby's still alive. Carl was the one that told Bobby and Janet, that the place was haunted. But he said there are good ghost spirits here, not just bad ones. And they protect the place. Okay? Well, Carl was a target. He was a target for the bad spirits, as well as the good ones. He found Johanna's diary when she came to him in a dream. He read the diary. The next night, she came to him not in a dream, just right there, and told him to dig in the basement, and that's where he found the latch to the door to the well that they call the portal to hell. Okay? Carl ended up getting possessed by an entity intent on destroying him. The apparition of a mysterious but helpful woman in white appeared outside the club, and another was reported inside. Okay? Carl was agonized by the spirits. He also lived upstairs in an apartment above the club, so he never really left the building. A mysterious cowboy lurks in the basement. Shadowy silhouettes peek out from hidden rooms. Disembodied cries shatter the silence. Anomalies happening around in every corner of the club. But it is the maleficent forces that are the most worrisome. The ones that pick up grown men and fling them like rag dolls across the room. Scratch and push, possess, and oppress. In the 1990s, a man tried to sue Bobby Mackey's Music World because he got hit by an unseen force in the men's bathroom. And now they have that infamous sign that's a warning to their Patreons that the premises is haunted. Bobby Mackey's Music World is rife with spirits. Some say as many as 40, but if you ever watch Carl Lawson's possession and exorcism video, Carl said they've been here for over 6,000 years, and there's hundreds of them, and no one can make them leave. Because no amount of cleansing or blessing will chase off the vast amount of paranormal energy that has taken root in the land and the building. So come for the music and the fun and the good times, and the ghost, but be warned. This is one place where reality exceeds reputation amongst America's most haunted. Definitely crazy, huh? So during Carl's exorcism, the priest reported experiencing several supernatural phenomena. including objects moving on their own and strange noises. They also reported feeling a powerful sense of evil emanating from the basement of the building. Despite the exorcism, reports of supernatural activity at Bobby Mackey's Music World are going to continue. I don't think tearing it down is going to make it stop, especially if they're keeping the Wall of Faces and the portal to hell untouched. So, some people claim that exorcism that Carl had only made things worse. I personally think having Zach Baggins there made things a little bit worse for this place, because it gave it the power it needed and wanted. Because now all these people that are paranormal enthusiasts are rushing over here to get their last tour of the original Bobby Mackey's Music World. Because they specify in organizing paranormal events, ghost hunts, and, they have visitor packages. It's a paranormal attraction, for sure. For sure. So, I'm going to put this Carl Lawson website up, because Carl, he passed away, I want to say in 2014. Don't quote me on that. He passed away from a heart attack while on the premises of the building. So it's almost like Carl can never leave. He's not allowed to leave. But I'm also going to link in his exorcism video and the details of this show, because that is very hard to watch. That was the second attempt at the exorcism. The first attempt, he didn't really want the ghost to leave, and they only made him sicker after that. So the second attempt, some crazy things happened. He said the ghosts were saying, "This body is mine. I don't have to leave. Because if I leave, we all gotta leave." And they were saying really bad things about Carl himself. But apparently he was being possessed by Alonzo Wallington, who helped Pearl Bryan's boyfriend do those things to Pearl Bryan. There's another account here where before it was, or right when Bobby Mackey bought it, he was renovating the place. After it was the Hard Rock Cafe, someone died in the parking lot by natural causes driving home. They pulled over into the parking lot and died in the parking lot. So the state trooper had came and, was going to cover up the body before, coroner got there. But he had nothing to cover him up with. A lady came out of the bar and offered him a tablecloth to cover up the body. So he's like, "Oh, thank you, ma'am." And when he went to go return it, it looked like that place has been closed for hours and nobody's been there for hours. So he claimed that was a ghost that gave him the tablecloth. Now, you guys know I'm a big paranormal enthusiast, and I absolutely love all these ghost shows that went to YouTube, such as Project Fear, which comes back the same day this episode is dropping. So yay for that. But The Boys, without Chelsea, recently went with Sam and Colby to Bobby Mackey's, was like one of the last people that are doing videos there. Dakota asked what would happen when the building's torn down. And it said, "You'll see. It seems to me like the spirits know what's about to happen to Bobby Mackey's Music World, and they accept it now, but they're angry. And I think the keeping of those two items and not tearing it down completely is what makes them okay with it. Because they're like, you're not going to get rid of us. We're always going to be here." They're confident in that. So here's a little excerpt from something Carl has said. This is a quote from Carl Lawson. "I double-check at night at the end to make sure that everything was turned off. Then I'd come back down hours later, and the bar lights would be on, the front doors would be unlocked, When I knew that I'd locked them, the jukebox would be playing the anniversary waltz, even though I unplugged it and the power was turned off. Lawson told author Doug Hensley, who written the extensively about the haunted tavern. Carl also says, odd sounds and noises often accompanying sightings, and Lawson soon realized that the spirits seemed to be the strongest in the basement, near the old sealed-up well that had been left from the days where it was a slaughterhouse at the location. The lore of the area, Carl knew, stated that the well had once been used for satanic rituals. And there you go, guys. That's the story of Bobby Mackey's Music World. So, in Wilder, Kentucky, this Music World plans to demolish its bar's home venue, which has been standing since Primrose in the 1930s. Bobby Mackey says, it's a mixed emotions for sure, but I've been so embarrassed by the old building for so long. Mackey said when he opened Bobby Mackey's Music World in 1978. It's going to be bittersweet because it's been a great for almost 46 years that we've been there. But it's just one of those things that time moves on. The country singer said he initially planned to relocate the bar while renovating the original building. However, after conversations with the engineering contractor, he and his wife Denise learned that it would be too expensive to salvage the site, which prompted the decision to demolish the location. A demolition date has yet to be set, but we now know it's close. Bobby and Denise plan to rebuild a new one-story bar on the land of the original location by 2026, but that date is subject to change. The infamous Honky Tonk has temporarily relocated to the former location of Mugby's Biker Bar and Restaurant in Florence, Kentucky, something Mackey has been planning for over a year, but he was just looking for a right fit. And this has been on my mind coming up for quite a while. When this place came open in Florence, we knew it was the right place. So, there we go. So I'm going to link that there too and keep you guys updated on the final day of Bobby Mackey's on the YouTube page. But yeah, this has been a dedication to Bobby Mackey's Music World, a dedication to Pearl Bryan, Johanna, and Carl Lawson. I hope that you guys will rest peacefully knowing that there's going to be a new building built for you guys. But yeah, if you like this episode, you guys, share it with a friend that likes things that are spooky and has never heard the legend of Pearl Bryan, Johanna, or Carl Lawson. And if you like this episode, tell me in the comments. Or if you have a spooky story that you want me to read on my podcast, email me at underthemoonparapod@gmail.com. Also, if you have a topic that you would like me to research and do an episode on, you can email me that too. So, thanks for listening. Later.